melt is when I'm ocean waves.
Today on Nova Legends podcast, I continue my Final Four preview with Cal Lutheran coach Frank Marino, whose team just won a thrilling penalty shootout to qualify for the Final Four. I believe maybe the first time in school history. We'll get into that. But anyway, Coach, congratulations. Great to meet you.
Thank you, and thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course. Well, I'm from Northern Virginia, and really big area for women's soccer, girls soccer and women's soccer. So some of the girls you would have played from Christopher Newport that will be very familiar to folks from around here. So, but don't know much about Cal Lutheran. I know at one point, I think Bob Shoup was a football coach there, and it was known to have lots of, they won a football championship when I was a kid, and a lot of coaches came from Cal Lutheran. It was known for that. But it's been a while for me. What kind of student and what kind of players do you typically get at Cal Lutheran?
Yeah, you know a little bit of your history. Dave Aranda, Tom Herman. There's definitely some football coaches out there from Cal Lutheran. And yeah, the coach you mentioned was the original, I think, football coach at the college at the time. We get a lot of student athletes from the region. Hawaii, West Region, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, Arizona, Oregon. We really hit that area. Northern California is big for us. So, we get a lot of regional players. We've had some players from Texas. We have one from Texas, from Austin, on our roster currently. So, we definitely do well in our region. We're in a really good area. Angel City FC, the NWSL team practices on our campus. The LA Rams are just leaving at the end of this year after 7 years of practicing on our campus. They're moving into a new facility. So, we're in a really good area for soccer, and really good area for sports in general.
Well, it's beautiful, Thousand Oaks. Anyone who hasn't been there would love it. I think you're probably like halfway up to Santa Barbara, up the coast.
You know your geography, halfway between LA and Santa Barbara. Yes.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple big corporations there, because I'm in sales, and I remember I went there for a sales meeting. I forgot who it was, but there's a couple of major corporations in Thousand Oaks, I believe.
Amgen is the big one. Amgen.
Yeah, that's who I was meeting with.
Pharmaceutical company is all of Newbury Park, which really is part of the city of Thousand Oaks.
Yeah. Well, let me give a bit of your background. You've been coaching at Cal Lutheran since 2009. You have 5 conference championships. Southern California Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. I think you're the all-time winningest coach in the conference. Is that right, Coach?
I don't know about necessarily the conference. Maybe definitely at Cal Lutheran. And maybe in the conference. That could be true.
Yeah. Well, I know one thing, it's on your website as a coach: culture, character, positive environment, good student experience. Hard to argue with those things. And I think sometimes they could be more important than talent and formation, right, Coach?
You're 100% right. I think, you look at our program, and those are sort of the key aspects of it that I think separate us from some other programs.
Absolutely. Once you get on that field, it's the chemistry, it's the desire to get that goal, work together. And sometimes you can have the greatest players in the world. It's not going to help you much. You also coach at Westlake High School locally. You've won some conference championships there. You went to the University of Laverne. You have your wife, Madge. I'm sorry, Coach.
Megan.
I'm sorry, Coach. And you have five kids. So you're a busy guy. But I got most of that correct there, Coach?
You got it all right. And I even have, I had a daughter that went to Westlake High, and I got current son at Westlake High. So yeah, yes, you've got it all correct. I'm busy. I guess that would be the easiest thing to say.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like high school soccer to me. My son was he was an all district midfielder at the local school. And we got to the state finals one year. So he's a pretty high level player. I love the excitement of high school soccer. I think it's a little underrated. We know how great high school basketball is. First of all, before we get to your team and your season, what are some of the differences between coaching high school soccer and college? I know obviously your talent level is going to be higher at college, but what are some of the other differences?
I think one of the biggest differences is in high school, although it's changed a little bit in the last few years, is that, players are playing with kids they grew up with, kids they went to elementary school with, and they So it's different from their club teams where they're traveling from large distances to play together. In high school, you're playing with a lot of the local players that you grew up with, and there's something to be said about the social aspect of it, right? There's that's very different from college in some ways. I think high school should be enjoyable. It should be competitive. It should be fun. We tell kids it's the one thing that's in the newspaper all the time. They don't put your club records in the newspaper. There's high school and college in the newspaper. So it's, kids like to see their name on Twitter and Instagram and other places. And, they get to do that in high school. The biggest difference, honestly, is the maturity level. It's amazing how much young people grow from high school to college. Is from being basically kids to young adults, right? And when they get to college, there's more of a drive to want to be there. You don't have to motivate them to train hard as much. They're there because they want to be there. They want to compete and they want to play at the highest level. High school is sort of a mixed level of talent, and you have really some top D1 players that I get to coach, but then kids that will never play in college. So it's a very different dynamic. Both are fun. Fortunate in California to be able to do both because we play high school soccer in the winter, so it makes it a little bit easier because cool. our weather is good. So actually, my first high school game is tonight. I will not be there as I'm here. So I have an assistant coach there that is coaching our game tonight.
Yeah, actually, in Virginia, it's one of the few states. I think maybe there's 10 states that play soccer in the spring for high school. So you can also there are some Division III coaches, that maybe even Division I coaches that coach high school. In the spring as well. So I like the idea of being able to do that, even though I know it's controversial when for different clubs. In Maryland, they play in the fall, and in Virginia in the spring. Virginia in the spring, Virginia privates in the spring. No, Virginia privates in the fall, and DC in the fall. So the club teams can have kids with different in terms of different use of their body. What word I'm looking, different loads, because some are playing club at the same time they're playing high school, and others are doing nothing because there's no high school and no club. So that's a little unfortunate. But anyway, let's get to your team now. Now, one thing I noticed about you guys, many of the girls teams that qualify at this stage, and I interviewed all the coaches last year as well, they score tons of goals, and they have they'll have 2 or 3 scores in double digits. Your goals are all spread out, and you have a lot of 1-0, 2-1 results, some ties as well. Actually, I think that's great for the postseason because you're used to a dogfight. But so anyway, your team was well balanced.
100%. We're not relying on one player to carry us, right? As far as finding ways to score and to be able to compete. I do think you hit you were 100% accurate in the fact that our conference is difficult. We have some really good teams in our conference. We had to play some really tight games in our conference against even some of the lower half teams in our conference. And we were able, even late in those games, to find a way to win. We won 2 games in our conference in the final 5 minutes, and I think being behind in those games and finding ways to come back and score goals actually helped us in the playoffs. It's helped us be, ready for these moments where it may not always go our way, but we got to find a way to win. So we've been tested in different ways, and different players have stepped up when we've needed them.
Yeah. Well, Coach, you have a great rivalry, at least on paper, with Pamona-Pitzer. I think it was the only team to beat you this year, and you had to beat them in the NCAAs to advance. Talk a little bit about that rivalry.
Yeah, pretty much us and Pomona, I think the last about 8 years have been the top 2 teams in the conference, and they've gotten, most of it. We tied this year for the conference title. They've won most of them. We've finished second most years. We've been competitive. We haven't won at their place until the playoffs in about 8 years. They hadn't won at our place in 8 years. So it was kind of a crazy thing. In the conference tournament final, we're finally hosting, so we can finally win this thing instead of losing at Pomona. We lose the game on a set piece at our place. Then we get put at Pomona for the playoffs, and we're like, man, if we both win, we got to play them again. And we have to break that streak. They broke the streak at our place. Let's go break the streak at their place. And that's what ended up happening. So it worked out well for us.
Yeah. What is, if you had to describe your guys' style of play, how would you describe it?
I think we're interesting. This year's group is definitely, we're possession based. We want to build out of the back, and we want to play with good possession. But we're a mix of, I'd say we've got a blue collar mentality, a bit of grit. So we're kind of a nice balance between that blue collar grit with some nice soccer mixed in, So I think, I'd love us to be a little bit better at soccer all the time. But we make up for it in our togetherness, our effort, and our blue collar work ethic.
Yeah. Well, if you have a coach named Frank Marino, you're going to have a blue collar ethic on that team. My experience. Well, but I want to get to your players. But one thing that jumped out at me is you have a graduate student who does not want her career to end because she keeps scoring winning goals for you. I believe her name is Edenqueros.
Heroes, yeah.
Heroes.
Yeah.
And I believe the last 3 games, she may have scored an equalizer to put you in penalties, and also the winning goal in the other 2 games. Is that true, Coach?
That's correct. Yes, 100%. Yeah, she went to USD, and she's a local kid. She's from Newbury Park, Thousand Oaks area, and went to University of San Diego. I think she was a 3-time all-conference player at University of San Diego. But they didn't win a lot of games. I mean, I think I don't know what the best year they had was, maybe 3 wins, 5 wins, something like that. And I've known her since she was 10. She plays at the club I work with, my kids play at. So, I've known her for a long time. She's really good friends with my assistant coach of the high school's daughters. So we have a close relationship. And when she got in the transfer portal, I was like, I saw her name pop up. I'm like, this would be a dream, but there's no chance this could ever happen, right? She's a big time Division I player. She's going to go someplace else. And, through conversation, talking to my high school assistant, she said, no, actually, her grandparents are elderly. They really want to get to see her play more. They want to be able to get to games. She wants to be a school counselor. We have an unbelievable education program at our school and graduate degree. So lo and behold, she's like, hey, reach out to her. I think she's interested. So I did. We got her on campus. It's amazing how many people live nearby but haven't actually been on campus and seen all that it has to offer. After walking the campus, getting a tour, doing everything, literally before she left, she's like, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to play. And she's thoroughly enjoyed it. I think if you would ask her right now, she'd probably say she wishes she had more years to be here.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So, I mean, what a dream end to her season. Well, let's talk about some of your other players. The defensive player of the year, Avery West, as a junior, she had 4 goals, 3 assists. First team all conference. We talked about Eden, 5 goals, 4 assists. You also had Ali Fisicaro, coach, first team senior. Isabella Vilacek. Is that right?
Veljacek.
Veljacek, close. 9 goals, 4 assists. Another graduate student. 2 second team all league. Savannah Durr, junior, 1 goal, 1 assist. Adriana Maroney, a junior, 2 goals, 3 assists. And then you have a super sub, Ashley Escamilla, Mia, 6 goals, 2 assists. Elisa shot 4 goals, 4 assists. And playmaker deluxe, Anna Evanson, 1 goal, 8 assists. So, like I said, it's a very balanced score sheet there, Coach.
I mean, I think we're the epitome of a group that, it's by committee. Everybody's involved. You talked about Ashley Escamilla and Elisa Schott. They share the same position. Both have contributed greatly when they've played, right? And they've split time between who's the starter, who's the the sub coming in, but they both have been major contributors. Anna's been great out wide. Bella was, I think, twice the offensive player of the year for our conference. So she's a 5th-year player with us using a COVID year. I think she's happy she came back for the extra year of grad school. So I think, you look at all those players, they've just had major contributions. Avery West, I mean, talk about a great defender who can get forward and create goals and assists for us. She does that as well. There's a reason she's defensive player of the year, because she can play both sides of the ball extremely well. So, we're fortunate. Ali Fisicaro, Savannah Durr, our center backs. Savannah went to Northridge her first year, didn't play, transferred to us. Last year we had a defensive player of the year playing center back with Fisicaro, and Savannah played up top. And, I think was a little bit out of sorts, wasn't probably the best fit for her. She came to me in her exit meeting at the end of the year and said, hey, I want to compete to play at center back. And did she ever compete? She's all conference player now. So super happy. I'd seen her play in both positions in clubs, so I knew she could do either one. And, she's much more comfortable in the back.
Well, yeah. Well, and coach, as you were talking about with a balanced squad, deep squad, a tough conference, you mentioned you lost in the conference final to Pomona. And I know that kind of broke the streak of home team winning. So that was kind of unsettling. But you also felt confident maybe you can break it at the other place. In basketball, NCAA basketball, people who lose their conference tournament, for some reason, they're more likely to advance in the NCAAs in some regard. They get time to rest. Maybe they're not, overconfident or peaked early. Is there any advantage you think to have lost the conference championship along the way?
It's random that the 2 of the years we've lost it have been our best 2 playoff years. It's sort of true. Early in my career, we had this double round robin with every team, and then you had to play them a third time in the conference tournament. And anybody who knows sports, playing a team 3 times and trying to beat a team 3 times in a year is challenging, no matter how good you are, right? And you just, being familiar and comfortable with them, it makes it more difficult. We adjusted the conference to it's a 1.5 round robin. So some years we play teams twice, some teams we play them once. Pomona, we only played once in the regular season. So interesting enough, they won the second time in the conference tournament, and we won the third time. So, I think in some ways there's a benefit to what we did in the conference, having sort of that balance and not always playing these teams 3 times every single year. I think it's helped some, but people don't realize how good soccer is in the West. Southern California is a hotbed for soccer. Pomona was in the Final Four 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I mean, so you look at, we don't get a lot of respect because there's not a lot of Division III schools in our area. So it's really hard for us to play teams outside of our conference unless we travel. We went to Texas and won some games this year, but it's a challenge. And, I'm glad to see the West get a little bit more respect and hopefully a little bit more representation. Next year, you probably don't know this, the Final Four is actually in Las Vegas. So it'll be the first time that I know of it's ever been on the western part of the country. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, what was the Harden? You played Harden Simmons to get to the round of 16, I believe, right, Coach?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and that was I mentioned earlier that was won by a late goal by Eden. What was that game like? Did you know a lot about Harden Simmons coming in?
We had played them the year before, so a lot of we had some familiarity with them. Lance Key's a great coach. He coached at Trinity for years and went to D1 and came back to D3. We knew they were good. We just, we felt we've had this sort of kind of relaxed attitude in the sense of our groups wanted to set every record they could. The furthest we ever got was a Sweet 16 before. So they really had said, let's win this game. If we win this game, we've put Cal Lu on the map. It'll be the greatest year Cal Lu women's soccer has ever had. They did that. And then we got to play, Christopher Newport in the next game, the number 1 team in the country. We're down 1-0 with 3 minutes left, but we found a way, right? So get to the penalty shootout and advance to where we are now. So, I've been telling everybody, we're just trying to enjoy this, enjoy every moment. And, our group doesn't want to lose.
Mm-hmm. Was it intimidating playing Christopher Newport? The number 1 in the nation. Does that make them seem kind of tough? And what was the trip like? It's a really nice campus. It's brand new. Did you play on the CNU campus?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I've actually taken my team there a couple times. I think it was my 3rd or 4th time there.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful area. Love the area. The campus is great. Jamie Gunderson, the coach, is fabulous. They're always good. They won the national championship 2 years ago. So we really enjoyed the experience. And I think we were on our heels the first 20 minutes of that game, and that game easily could have got away from us early. We saved one off the end line in the first 3 minutes, and we just competed. And actually, at the last 20 minutes of the first half, we really gained some confidence and momentum in the game. We had the ball a lot. We were creating chances, and we came off at halftime, and our players were like, we can do this. I think we can do this. They're good, but I think we can compete with them. And then lo and behold, they scored like within the first 5 minutes of the second half. We're down 1-0, and we didn't crack. We didn't break. We just kept playing. And actually, as the game wore on, they had played double overtime the day before. And I think as the game wore on, we were more fresh, and we were able to, keep momentum in the game. And ended up getting that goal late and ended up being able to advance.
Yeah, well, before you could advance, so you had to win the penalty shootout, which is always a lot of fun for a coach. What was your strategy? Are you very thoughtful about penalties? And have you guys probably hadn't been in the penalty shootout this year? So what was your strategy going in?
Well, leading up to the conference tournament, we started a week out just practicing at the end of every practice. And I will tell you, when we first started, I said to myself, I hope we never get to a penalty shootout. We're terrible. And we just practiced every single day for basically the 2 weeks, leading up to everything that we've done. We had a list of 10. We knew who our top 5 were going to be. We got in the huddle and basically said, here's the 5 that are going to shoot. Tell me, who wants to go where. Basically, I didn't want to pressure somebody to be number 1 or number 5. And, players all of a sudden said, hey, I want to be 1, I want to be 2. And Savannah walks up and she says, I want to be 5. When she said, I want to take the last kick. I said, okay, you can take the last kick. We're good. So they just had a confidence about them. Our goalkeeper, Kelsey, is good at PKs. She reads well. She's really tall. She's got long arms. She stopped 2. We made 4 out of 5. That's all we needed.
Yeah. Well, you get to come back. You guys going back to California, right? So enjoyed your Thanksgiving and
Thanksgiving. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. And now you're going back to Salem. Have you been to Salem before, that part of the state?
I personally was on the national committee for the last 4 years, only had 3 because of COVID. So I was actually here for the Final Four as a committee member. So I was here, so I know everything, been to the facility, been to the locker rooms, know the restaurants. I know what's happening. And when I left, I said, I hope I never have to come back here as a committee member, in the sense of I want to be here as a participant, as somebody here. I'd love to be a committee member again in the future, but, we wanted to be here as a participant, and lo and behold, we're here.
Yeah. It's very different than Tidewater area. It's definitely a southern town. I don't know if you get that experience as a tourist there. But it's a pretty town. There's lots of nice mountains nearby if you're into that. Well, Coach, so let's talk about the challenge. And the game was on Friday. You guys are playing Tufts, and Tufts, Amherst, these national programs. Case, you see these names every year. It seems like Emory. So my guess is Tufts is the kind of team, national program that's probably been here before.
Yeah, I think this is their second Final Four. Somebody said, I think today. I hadn't looked, but they're in the NCAAs, which is, arguably the UAA and the NCAAs are the top 2 Division III conferences in the country, right? So they're always good. They have to compete in every single conference match that they have. It's challenging. So yeah, and they're a high academic school. People, you look at Division III, and I say this to a lot of people, and I don't know if you evaluate who are the best Division III sports programs, and you look at it and you go, the high academics are. If you look at the Lairfield Cup, the high academics are 9 out of 10, except for Christopher Newport. They're all high academic schools. You look at public schools, so you got the public schools are good, and then you have some of those niche schools like Messiah, who's really good in soccer. The highly religious schools, they used to be Wheaton, Illinois, Messiah. And then you have, schools like us, Trinity, Harden Simmons, I'd say are really good academics. They're upper academics, but they're not in that top 25 in the country academics, right? So we're kind of in that middle road. And I think it's challenging for us sometimes, right? Because we don't, those high academic schools are going to get the best student athletes that are Division I players sometimes that really want that academic experience. Exactly. The public schools are going to get the local kids for a cheaper cost, right? And then you have the ones that are going for the religious experience that they want, right? So I think for schools like us, it is more difficult to be really good every single year. I think we've sustained, being top 2 good in our conference every year. We've been in the playoffs, I don't know, 6 or 7 times since I've been here. I think, but it's a challenge. And I think you're right. You look at the names you mentioned earlier, Case and Amherst and Emory and, Wash U's in the Final Four. Mm-hmm. Those are the schools that are almost always there.
Yeah, it is. You would think, like in basketball and football, so sometimes tough academics means it's hard to get, good players in. But I think what you're alluding to as well as a lot of the really good players are choosing between their soccer may not be able to get them to the academic school they want to in Division I, but they're Division I players who want top academics in Division III. So then that looks like that's the setup. So what are some of the keys? Some of the keys to victory, do you think? You just got to play your game, or are there specific things that you're really going to have to do to beat Tufts?
I think, Tufts is potent offensively. Their front three are really good. And I think that's going to be a challenge for us. They're good defensively. They're a possession team like us. They're good in the build up. So I think it's going to be a challenge, but I think it's going to be a really good soccer game. I've been telling people I think you're going to see a really entertaining soccer game. I think you're going to have two good teams, and it's going to come down to the details. It could be a set piece, could be the one goal and hold on. It could be a lot of different things, but like I've said to people, we're just happy to be here, enjoy the moment. There's really no pressure on us. Nobody expects us to be here. So another win would be great, and I think our team's up for it.
Yeah. Will your substitution patterns be the same? Will you go as deep as you normally go when you're this deep in knockout?
We've probably tightened it a little bit, but we trust our players. Our players that have gotten us here are going to continue to get us here. So I feel pretty confident that we got players that are going to step in and do the job. And no matter who we ask to play, they're going to do a good job. They really do. One of the things our team decided is we don't call them subs, we call them game changers. So the game changers come in, they're there to change the game and make a difference. And they've done it all year long. So I've been super impressed, and I trust anybody on our roster in a situation to put them in. We've had players, as you've seen from the stats, we've had players step in and do the job for us.
Yeah. Well, Coach, when you prepare for a game like this, if you happen to win and advance and beat Tufts, and I know you want to take it one game at a time, it's a quick turnaround for the championship game. Is it 2 or 3 days, Coach?
It's one. We got 1 day rest in between.
1 day rest. Okay, it's a quick turnaround, which is you don't usually play on 1 day rest these days, even though you play a lot of games per week. Have you scouted the other game yet, or are you going to just watch that game on Friday? And if you win, take it from there.
Pretty much what you just said. We're really focused on the game, game tomorrow. That's the focus moving forward. Have we seen, obviously WashU and Messiah play? Yeah, I'm certainly watching the best teams in Division III play their playoff game. So have I seen their teams play? Yes. We've watched their games. Do we have some ideas? Absolutely. But have we watched it from a point of view of scouting and preparing our team? Not quite yet.
Yeah. Well, Coach, this has been great. It's great to meet you and hear about your team. I love to hear about teams, talk to Coach, and they actually go watch and play for the first time. So I'm excited to watch your game. I'll leave the game time in the down below. What time? What exact time is the game?
3 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. 3 p.m. Eastern
tomorrow. Tomorrow. Okay, on Friday. On Thursday or Friday?
Thursday. The women are tomorrow. The men are on Friday.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. Let's make sure we get that right. So the game's tomorrow at 3:00. All right. Well, Coach, again, I appreciate you taking the time to jump in, and I look forward to following you, and hopefully we can keep in touch and do this again sometime.
Sounds great. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, of course. Thanks, Coach. Have a good one now.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Take care.